This is video number 2 on mindset foundations for survival. Yesterday I uploaded a video on confidence. Confidence, the literal definition of with faith. First you have to have faith in God, of course, as your ultimate foundation. Then you have to have faith in your God-given abilities and the skills that God has allowed you to develop to carry you through that survival situation. Knowing that you've developed those skills will help you to have that confidence that you need to face the situation. And today, video number 2 is on courage. So confidence, courage. For confidence, I shared that I carry a fire steel with me everywhere I go for the practical use of starting a fire, but also that reminder of the confidence. I know how to start a fire. This thing that I carry every day would take courage to use. And before I show it, just want to remind everybody I'm fully licensed in my state and trained to be able to carry a firearm concealed. I'm going to go ahead and clear it. So we have a clear chamber here. This is a Palmetto State Armory dagger. It is patterned after the Glock 19, and that is kind of an industry standard size for concealed carry. People either go up or down in size and caliber and all that, but this is a very good option. I'll probably have a more dedicated video on handguns coming out soon. This one is chambered in 9mm. Just real quick word on that. I'm not 100% sold on 9mm, but I carry it every day, mostly because I can carry this 15-round magazine also. So you have the most capacity in this firearm. Plus, this firearm is compatible with the folding carbine that I keep in my backpack. Now we'll cover that in more detail, but I did have to add that because referring back to the adrenaline dump video, different calibers have different levels of stopping power, and I know, and I always have to keep this in the back of my mind, that one shot from this is not necessarily going to stop a threat. To have courage to use something like this, courage is taking a proactive step to address the threat. And not every survival situation is going to take that. Now, I think you have to be courageous every day, but not every threat is going to have to be engaged. And when we get to video number 3, spoiler alert, it's going to be on caution. And we'll talk more about, when do you withdraw? When do you walk away? When do you run? When do you not engage whatever the threat is so that you survive? And we'll talk more through that another time, but to engage a threat, you have to have a reason to do that. And that's what courage is all about, is having your reasons in place up front, kind of rehearsed, at least in your mind, maybe even rehearsed with your skill sets to be able to respond to a threat. Now, I just cleared this firearm because I do carry with 1 round in the chamber, and many, if not most, I dare say concealed weapons instructors advise folks to carry with a round in the chamber. Now, there is a higher level of risk with that, but as far as responding to a threat, is one less thing that you have to think about in that moment, the heat of that moment. And you can do it safely if you have the proper firearm and the proper holster to do that with. Now, courage, a lot of times maybe we think of a World War II movie or something, someone charging into the enemy lines, and we see that as our picture of courage. Borrowing again from the movies, John Wayne has a famous quote, says, "Courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyways." Knowing there's a threat out there, knowing you don't want to go over there, but you do it anyways because you know it's the right thing to do. But I want to share with you an account, and look this up on your own, but this is about the man in the iron lung. Look up his story. He just recently passed away just a few weeks ago, and that's why it popped up. And I'm sorry I don't remember his actual name, but that's how he's referred to in the media. But he was born in the early 50s, contracted polio, and he spent his entire life encased in an iron lung, and the only part of his body that was visible and usable was his head. And despite that severe handicap, he thrived. Now, I'm sure he had his ups and his downs, but he used his brain, used his eyes, used his mouth, and he got a PhD with some high law degree, became a lawyer, actually argued cases, wrote a book. In fact, there's videos of him using a pen stuck in his mouth to write things down. Just incredible. And just to think the mindset that this guy had of courage every single day to face the unknown, to face the threat of for him, it would probably been feeling like he couldn't do anything, feeling like he just was a hopeless burden on his loved ones. But he decided to make the most of his life and to face each day with courage. And it's important to understand courage in all of its facets, all of its application in life. And so you don't have to necessarily be charging across no man's land with a gun in your hand to be courageous. You can be courageous just getting out of bed in the morning. You might be courageous just clicking play on this video. And so I just want to encourage you, keep being courage, and there's a connection there, encourage you to keep being courageous. These are things you have to think about before it happens, and if you go through concealed carry training, you're taught to have the muscle memory and to have a certain set of indicators, a certain set of thresholds in your mind everywhere you go, to be ready. And you see something that doesn't look right, that person's not acting the way they should be acting. Okay, I see a threat, they've crossed a threshold, they're threatening me, they're threatening someone else. Now it's time to act. And when that action comes, you follow procedure, you follow what you have practiced. And here's the key thing with it: if you are not preparing to be courageous, in that moment when the adrenaline dump comes, you're going to resort to flight. It's either flight or fight. If you don't have a plan to fight, you're going to flight. You're going to run away. And so this definitely takes that pre-planning to be courageous sometimes. And in the day-to-day life, and this is something I'm working on personally, having a plan for the next morning when you wake up and hit the floor. I realize that the mornings I don't have a plan are the mornings that it's hard to get out of bed, it's hard to be happy, it's hard to, want to do anything. But if you got a plan, especially you make that plan the night before, you hit that ground running with that in focus. I think there's so many applications, but I just want to challenge you, start with that confidence, start with ultimately faith in God, and then faith in what God's plan is for your life and what He has gifted you and enabled you to do. And then start thinking about how to be courageous in your life. It's a command to God's people. In Joshua chapter 24, I'll have the full verse down in the description. But God says through Joshua, be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. You think about that.